Hey, it's Jad T. Jones, and welcome to another podcast. All right, today we're going to talk about. These podcasts are a collection of conversations that our fathers should have had with us. What I'm doing through these podcasts is empowering you with tools that's going to make it easier to navigate your way through this world as a man. So today we're going to talk about quitting, getting unstuck, and following your heart. So if you feel a bit stuck in your life, if you feel like you're really struggling and you're not getting anywhere and you don't really know why, well then today we're gonna shed some light on why that may be, and we're gonna give you practical remedies on how to get out of that rut, how to get back into the flow of life, and how to make sure you are moving towards living a purpose-driven life, fulfilling life, a life where things flow easily and naturally for you, where you're enjoying the journey every single day. So the first thing we're going to talk about is working harder is not always the answer. Okay, working harder is not always the answer. So sometimes when we're stuck, we think the remedy is that, oh, I must not be working hard enough. Let me work harder. Let me push harder against the system. But I'm sure a lot of you know, just as I figured out, that pushing harder sometimes does not work. And sometimes, no matter how hard we try, we still don't get the result that we were hoping for or striving for. So I'm going to tell you why that is and what to do instead. So to explain this, I'm going to tell you a personal story of mine. A number of years ago, many years ago now, maybe five plus years ago, I was living in Vancouver, Canada. And when I moved to Vancouver, the first 2.5 years, I really liked it. I really enjoyed myself. However, after 2.5 years, my heart wasn't really there anymore. I kept, dreaming of traveling. I kept having these small trips where I would go to Hawaii to do some surfing. I would fly down to California, do some skydiving. I would fly over to Bali again to go to the beach to do surfing, and I just could not stay put. When I was in Vancouver, I was just not happy. Things just did not feel right. Now, at that time, I was starting my business, and I was also, constantly improving my life with women, and I was working really hard. However, despite my constant efforts, I was constantly hitting up against all these invisible walls. Everywhere where I turned, no matter how hard I tried, no matter how disciplined I was, things just were not flowing for me, all right? The women's situation, of course I was getting some success, but it did not feel natural. It was not flowing. My business, I was working hard, but again, it did not feel natural. Things were not flowing, and the money was not coming consistently. And so just generally, I was unhappy. I was just nothing was working, right? And the more I tried to do things right, the worse things got, and I was just miserable. And the whole time, my heart, there was this voice inside that was just telling me that, Jad, you gotta go. You gotta go. You just gotta go, right? And I was dreaming of the beach. I was dreaming of, skydiving. I had this vision, and my heart wanted to go. But I was staying because my friends and my family, they told me, hey, Jad, you're in your 30s now. It's time to calm down. It's time to settle down. You're not young anymore. You need to just, build a foundation for yourself and so forth, right? And so here's the first key. The first key is that I was listening to other people's opinions of what's best for me instead of listening to my own heart. Okay, I'm going to say that again because a lot of you will be able to relate to this. And this is a life lesson that every man needs to learn. I was listening more to people's opinions of what they thought was best for me instead of listening to my own heart, my own intuition of what I knew was what was best for me and what was right for me. And so when I listened to other people's advice, I was unhappy and I was living a life where flow was absent. All right, there was no flow. And no matter how hard I tried, things just were not working the way they should in relation to the effort I was putting forth. And so after about 2 years, 2 to 3 years of ignoring this voice, basically I just couldn't take it anymore. And I made the decision, you know what? I'm going to listen to this voice. I'm going to trust my intuition. And if my voice is saying go, then I'm going to go. And then at that point, I basically sold all my stuff or gave my stuff away. I had a very nice sports car, a very nice Honda 600 CBR race bike. I had all these things and I sold them. I gave them away. And then I just went traveling for a number of years with no clear objective, but I just went where my heart wanted to go. And a funny thing happened. Once I took that leap, and it was a scary leap to jump into that uncertainty, but once I took that leap, then from that moment onwards until this very moment, things just started to flow. Life started to work. Life became quote unquote effortless. And now when I say effortless, that does not mean I stopped working hard. I continued working hard. I continued being focused on my goals. I continued stepping outside of my comfort zone, challenging myself, doing all the work I knew I needed to do. The difference is I was doing it in environments that my heart wanted to be in. All right, so I was skydiving. I was in sunny California. I was in Australia. I was in Bali, right, and so forth. I even went to Lebanon. Basically, I went where my heart told me to go, and then everything flowed. And so the first lesson I want to tell you is that if you've been stuck for a long time, perhaps the answer is not to work harder or push harder, but rather to change where you are. What you need to do is sit in stillness and listen to your heart. Listen to your gut. Listen to that voice inside and ask it, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? What would I really want to be doing, and where do I really want to be? Am I staying in the spot I am right now out of fear, or am I staying here because I really want to be here? Now, I'm not telling you to just get up and move and leave everything. That was just my story. What I'm saying is maybe you need to try something drastically different. Maybe you need to rearrange your life. Maybe you need to rethink the career you chose, or if you're studying, the majors you chose. Maybe the choices that you made in the past came out of fear rather than out of inspiration. Maybe they came out of your mind instead of coming out of your heart. So the mistake a lot of us make is we make decisions only through our logic, such as, well, maybe I'll study to be an engineer because engineers make good money, right? Without checking in with our hearts and asking ourselves, is that aligned with who I am? Will being an engineer feed my soul? Is that a life purpose that is going to serve my soul and contribute to my long-term happiness? Is it aligned with who I am? And so one sign that you're stuck, or one way that leads us to be stuck, is when we listen to our minds only without also listening to our hearts. Now, a wise decision is when you use both your intuition as well as your logic, because obviously you can't just pack up and leave and quit your job and just go travel the world tomorrow if you don't have any way to make money and so forth, right? So there is logic to it. There is some planning to it. So what you need to do is you need to marry the two. So the lesson for today is, if you are stuck, perhaps the reason you're stuck is because you have been allowing only your logic, only your mind to lead your life and lead your decisions, but you have not been checking in with your heart, with your soul, with your intuition. What is my purpose? What was I brought here to do? What am I meant to serve? What purpose am I meant to serve? What gifts has this form, this human, been built to give? So again, my gift is to help men raise their self-esteem, help men realize their own potential, help men connect with women, right? So my gift is to empower people. And so I am serving my gift, and so I am at peace. So what is your gift? What were you made of? What were you made for? So the question you need to ask yourself is, what is beckoning me? What is calling me? What is that voice in my head that is what is that journey, the adventure that is calling me? A man needs to listen to that voice. You need to listen to that thing that's pulling you, that's beckoning you, that fantasy of yours that's saying, come here, wow, it would be great if we could do this with our lives. And that takes a lot of courage to listen to that voice and to obey that voice, because that's jumping into the unknown. That's scary. One thing you need to know about walking your path, your purpose, the path of your purpose, is that it's scary. When you follow your purpose, it's scary. When I finally surrendered to my purpose of being that man who stands for other men's greatness and who helps men understand and connect with women, I had to take a leap of faith. I had to trust. I had to surrender to the calling, that voice inside my head that wouldn't leave me alone, that told me, this is your purpose. You can explain this much better than everyone else. You can simplify this. All these things that turned out to be true once I obeyed them and I started making videos, and then the feedback I got from my audience was exactly what that voice in my head was telling me for years. That, hey, I can explain this seduction thing in very simple terms that people can understand. Hey, I can really help people in this area. And so I took that leap of faith, I obeyed that voice, I followed that calling, and it led me to a place where I am now serving my purpose. I am aligned, and I am enjoying serving my purpose. I'm enjoying my business. I'm enjoying my life. And so a man needs to learn how to flow with life. And so if you're working hard, and that's key, if you're not working hard and you're hitting walls, maybe you need to work harder. But if you've been working hard for a long period of time and things still aren't flowing for you, that is probably a sign that something needs to change. Either you are serving the wrong purpose or you're in the wrong spot. You need to sit in stillness. You need to check in with your intuition, with your heart, and ask yourself, where is my heart calling me? What is that voice inside my head saying? Where am I being pulled? And then you need to start redirecting yourself and allowing yourself to be pulled in the direction of that voice, pulled in the direction that the universe is gently, pushing you towards. So the way I imagine it is, I imagine there are these invisible hands that are gently guiding me right and left. So it's kind of like the autopilot in an airplane, right? An airplane is off course about 95% of the time. I forgot the exact number, but it is off course most of the time. but the autopilot is constantly course correcting that airplane so that it finally lands at the correct destination. Well, what I have learned through experience, so I'm not speaking out of theory here. This is actually concrete experience for me, that life has been gently guiding me with these invisible hands and telling me, okay, Jad, no, you know what? This is not the right way. Go this way. And the way it guides me is whenever I'm hitting up against an invisible wall, to me, that is like an invisible hand saying, you know what? This is close, but you got to adjust and go this way. And so if I'm hitting a wall, I'll push for a while, but then because I've become in tune with my intuition, I will know pretty quickly, like, oh, okay, this isn't the way because it's not flowing. I'll change directions a bit, and then boom, things will flow again. I'll be like, okay, this is great. And then I'll go in this direction, and then eventually I'll hit a wall, and then I'll readjust. And so I picture these hands like side by side, and I'm between these two invisible hands, and the universe is guiding me left and right. And now that I have learned how to dance with the flow of life, and I got this term from Will Smith, right? When you learn how to dance with the flow of the universe, then life starts to flow with you. And you no longer push against the system, but rather you become a servant of that system, and you trust that it knows better than you where to go, and you just trust and you go with that invisible flow, and then you are divinely guided exactly to the things that you need to do and the places that you need to go. And so, if we come back to the initial thing about when is it okay to quit, sometimes if you're hitting a wall, work your ass off. Okay, work your ass off for a period of time to test that wall is actually one of those walls where you're not meant to go that way. And if you've worked hard for months or a year or two and you see that wall is still there, well, then you can deduce that, okay, you know what? That is a sign that this is not my destiny. This is not my purpose. Constantly be checking in with, how does it feel? How does this feel? When you're on purpose and you're working hard, even if you fall short, you will still generally feel good, because, you know, everything worthwhile is challenging. So I'm not saying that I don't run up against challenges or that I don't hit up against walls. I do. However, it is enjoyable. It is a challenge. It's like, okay, this is challenging, but I'm going to power my way through it because it's feeling good. It's feeling right. All right. But sometimes something does not feel right. It does not feel aligned. It does not feel good. And eventually it becomes like a miserable task. Like, I dread doing this. Once it gets to that point, that is usually a very good sign that what you are doing is not what you are meant to be doing. And now you need to obey the flow, those invisible hands guiding you, course correcting you, telling you, you know what? Let's go left. You've been going right for a while. Let's adjust this. Let's go left. You're supposed to go this way. So sometimes quitting is the smartest thing to do. So I know sometimes I say never quit, you know, stick to your goals, all that stuff, but it needs to fall into the context of what we've talked about today. You need to dance and move and be in harmony with the flow of life, with the flow of the universe. The universe will gently guide you. You need to be aware enough to observe the signs that it is guiding you, and then be flexible enough to go in those directions and flow with that energy and allow yourself to be guided to your true purpose. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Do me a favor, if you enjoyed this podcast, share it with a few friends. Leave your comments below on your thoughts on today's episode, and please give me suggestions for future topics. This is Jati Jones. Take care.